Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rehash, a Web3 podcast. I'm so excited for our guest today, Steph Alinsug, founder of a new project called Vessel that everyone's been talking about on crypto Twitter for the last few months. We'll be getting the full scoop from her on what Vessel is all about, as well as what this meme she's been proliferating around Onchain media is all about. Steph is one of the few repeat guests we've had on Rehash. The first time she was on the podcast was almost exactly a year ago in November of last year. And I had encouraged you to go back and listen to her episode, season 3, episode 10, for more context on how her thinking around Web3 media has evolved over the last year. As it turns out, on-chain media refers to so much more than simply putting pieces of media on-chain. And its effects can be seen and felt across a wide berth of marketing, advertising, and branding initiatives for both individual creators and large corporations alike. Steph challenges us to rethink what we know about advertising and keep an open mind to new value additive forms of advertising that can actually benefit consumers instead of the value extractive forms of advertising we've all grown to know and not love. She paints a picture of what the marketing stack could look like for companies in the future and the ways in which on-chain media can help companies better understand their customers so that they can, in turn, provide more targeted value to the most loyal supporters. If you work in the marketing space or if you're a creator or a founder, you won't want to miss this episode as you'll learn a lot of innovative concepts to help you rethink your brand and marketing strategy. Steph was nominated by Blake Finucane and voted onto the podcast by Blake Finucane, Spencer Graham, Dina Burke, Steph herself, and our sponsor, Lore. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Steph Alinsug. Hey, Steph, welcome back to the podcast. How are you?
I'm so well. Hey, Diana. It's so nice to be back.
I know you're one of our few repeat guests. Season 3, episode 10 was Steph's first appearance on Rehash. So if you want to hear more about her backstory, about how she used to work in nonprofits and community organizing and all of this stuff and how she got into Web3, go back and listen to that. She talks all about that in season 3, episode 10. But today we're going to talk all about on-chain media and your new project, Vessel. So let's just start off, set the stage a little bit. And I guess a good place to start would be, what the hell is on-chain media?
Oh my God. The big question everyone wants answers to. Also, I can't believe the last time I was on was season 3. Gosh.
Yeah, and we're on season 6 already.
So huge.
Yep. You were still at Seed Club. I don't think on-chain media was even a meme at that time. I went back and listened to our episode, and we were mostly talking about decentralized media or Web3 media. But I don't know if we even used the terminology on-chain media at all in that episode.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely through lines between the thinking in that episode around decentralized media and Web3 media and where we are today with this phrase on-chain media. I really started digging down or doubling down on that phrase around the time of Broadcast NYC, mid-May of this past year. We've gone from saying crypto to Web3 to on-chain, and it's really fun to watch the space iterate on the language that we're all using. I feel really strongly about the phrase on-chain. It feels like it sticks. It's simple. There's no hyphen for anyone who has opinions on that. I started saying off-chain with no hyphen as well. Feel really good about that. But yeah, so what is on-chain media? So on-chain media refers to two things kind of almost simultaneously. On-chain media refers to the specific token standards, right? So whether that's a 721 or 1155 or 6551 or whatever emerging token standard comes into play, we're talking about the actual technological rails. We're also talking about the outputs of those rails, of those token standards. So the one-of-ones, open editions, multi-editions, podcast NFTs, on-chain video, dynamic NFTs. So it kind of refers to both.
We'll dive a little bit deeper on that, but to further set the stage, why would a piece of media need to be on-chain? Why would we want to put a piece of media on-chain? What benefits does that give us?
So there's tons of benefits. Let's start with the collector, the person who collects the media. So when I collect media, what I do is I'm effectively building out my aspirational identity in the same way that I might take stickers and put them on my laptop, which I have, or stickers on a skateboard or stickers on a water bottle, stickers on a snowboard. What we're talking about here is the building of an aspirational identity, which we've been doing. It's a behavior that predates the internet. It's something that we do offline, we do IRL, and now we can also do online, which we have already precedent for through social media, through Instagram. Instagram in particular was a really fascinating case study in how everybody then started curating identity through images that you'd post of your life. And we all know that the image or the feed that you see of a person's life on Instagram is a very particular slice. It's their particular brand of their life and how they want to be seen and perceived in the world, for good or for bad. And so same thing with on-chain media. Now we have an opportunity to bring that level of curation and identity development to the digital space. So that's a value proposition for retail consumers, for all of us regular folk. On the brand side, on the marketing side, on the creator side, the upside of putting media on chain is enormous. Effectively, you have both an advertisement and product rolled into one, which we can unpack a bit more. But the thing I want to highlight here is the underlying consented and verifiable data that is completely permissionless. So when you run a content strategy in a traditional sense in Web 2 on social media and email marketing, you have a certain number of metrics that you can see, things like open rates, number of likes, number of comments. And then there are also some pieces of demographic data that you can see on the people that interact with your piece of media. Some of it is verified and most of it is not. Most of it is pulled from cookies or user interactions from within an app. And so effectively, if you're running a content strategy, you really don't know who your people are. And the most important thing in a traditional content strategy is to get people to leave their email address. That's the critical piece of first-party data. That's how you contact them directly. And at the same time, we still just don't know too much about these people. When it comes to on-chain media, we know so much. We can see an entire on-chain footprint. We can see all of their on-chain activity. It's completely permissionless. And so why does that matter? Well, it matters for attribution. It matters for identity. I've used this example in our demo day pitch for Seed Club, but I talk about my experience walking through the Union Square subway back in 2015 and seeing the Thinks ad campaign on the walls. So Thinks, period underwear, one of the first movers. Back in 2015, they did this gorgeous ad campaign. It's worth looking up. Really simple, just like, solid colored backgrounds with a cross section of a citrus fruit. And I think about that ad and I think about all these ads that were served on a regular basis in the subway, or you're waiting at the bus stop, you're flipping through a magazine, and how, evocative or stunning they are. And even if they don't lead to immediate purchase, what they do is they make an impression on you. And so I think about how I wish I had a collectible of that ad from Thinks in my wallet. Why would I want that? I think about my love of something like Glossier. And when they came out with Boy Brow, I remember I was working in a corporate office at the time, and me and the other women I was working with, we all stood around the computer and did a bulk order together. And that's what we're talking about here is, community and identity building. And so putting that media on chain, let's say Glossier came out with an NFT associated with every purchase, they then would get wallet address, which, like email first-party data, is the inbox. It's also the cart and payment processor all in one. So right now, if you get an email from some Web 2 company and they're saying, we're having a sale, or here's a particular edit of clothes that we like, in order to complete that conversion to make that sale, you have to click through a number of interfaces before you actually convert over into a customer. With our wallets, it all happens right there. So the moment you hit mint, wherever you see that mint button, it takes you right to your wallet and you can complete the transaction right there. And so that's what I mean when I say the asset is both the advertisement and the product rolled into one, which we can unpack a bit more. But that's the high level value proposition for everyone all around. It's going to redefine marketing and advertising and branding as we know it. And I'm insanely excited for that.
I would love to do some thought experiments with you just to help us better understand how these things could apply in the real world. So, we can use the Glossier example. I was never super into makeup, but my understanding is Glossier was a makeup company of some sorts.
Yeah, so I think they came on the scene 2014, 15. The thing that's interesting about them, just to provide a little bit more context on the value proposition, they started out as a blog. It was called Into the Gloss, and they launched their own merchandising, their own product line. First big DTC, direct-to-consumer makeup brand. So it wasn't, you no longer had to go to Sephora. You could go directly to them. The prices were also extremely affordable. Mascara is $18. Boy Brow, I think, is $12. And they also had, at the time, a very limited product line. So they just had Boy Brow. And then they just had Cloud Paint. And they also were a skincare first makeup company. So they were all about this no makeup look. So for anyone interested, that's the full context.
Okay, cool. So they were super successful. You were really into them back in the day. Then what happened? Are you still into them, or at some point did you fall off as a customer?
So I still use Boy Brow, and I still use their powder, and I still use their Lash Slick, which is their mascara solution. to this day. So that's 10 years.
Wow.
They've had me as a customer for 10 years. But other than them looking at my purchase history, I have received maybe $30 total in terms of coupons that they've given me over the lifetime of my value to them. But yeah, I've been a customer and also like a proselytizer like this since the very beginning. And imagine if when I first purchased that boy brow, there was an NFT that came with that. And that would do a few things. One, that would showcase for me, look, I was early and I can prove it. The provenance is right there. I'd be able to, in the way that when I go to conferences and I post my makeup stack to Twitter and you can see my products right there. And that just like incites conversation around, oh, you use this product. And now I can have that digitally. I can have it permanently in my wallet versus needing to actually take out the physical good and show it to somebody. And then on Glossier's side, now they have my wallet address and now they can see all of my on-chain activity. They can see that Steph has a crypto coven. And, actually 80% of our customer base also has crypto covens. So maybe we should go do a collab with them and provide extra value to our customer base. And then also compound distribution into the people who are in crypto coven who haven't purchased Glossier just yet. So we can see these sort of network effects, these flywheel kick off really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've been diving into recently with Rehash too, and looking at Bello Insights, which I'm sure you've checked out. Like they will show you what is in the wallets of other Rehash NFT holders. So I can see that, a lot of our holders also hold crypto covens or also hold these other NFTs or certain ERC20 tokens or what events they've attended as well. That tells me a lot. Like if a lot of our people have been to hackathons, then maybe we have a more technical audience than I was aware of. Or if a lot of them have been to FWB parties or boys club parties, I'm like, okay, I see you guys out there. And that opens up so many doors for collaborations, like you said, partnerships and helping each other within the ecosystem with getting more and more traction with our audience.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, what you just talked through there is the bull case for on-chain media. And with podcasting in the traditional sense, and I know this from growing our podcast 30% season over season at Seed Club, I had no idea who our listeners were. We had over 5,000 monthly downloads, and I just had no idea who these people were. And there's no way to really find out. On top of that, the actual podcasting metrics, they almost mean nothing. Like what counts as a download? What counts as a unique download? And so you talking about being able to go to Bello and look at your community of holders and see where else they have overlap and where you can add value to your collector base and then also compound your distribution and grow your collector base and grow your listeners. That's the bull case right there. And I'll say that with Vessel, we're building on Bello. We're super excited to partner with them as part of our data engine. And we need more of these tools out there to really understand the lifespan of on-chain media.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to something you said about the Think ads with the little grapefruit that, you were saying if you could have an NFT of that, you would love to have that and keep it in your wallet as kind of a keepsake, even if the company isn't still putting out those ads or isn't even still around or whatever. Can you dive deeper into what on-chain advertising could look like and maybe give some more examples of how companies can use on-chain ads to further their marketing and their business plan?
Totally. So first of all, we have to rethink what we see in our heads when we think the word advertising. That's the first step. When we think digital advertising, we think banner ads. We think the bane of our existence on the internet is basically digital advertising, right? But what is advertising other than storytelling? It's trying to figure out how can we connect the dots between this product, this thing that we're trying to sell or we're trying to, get people to sign or this action we're trying to get people to take. How do we connect the dots between that and the people that we know who want this, who would be great fits for this? And the connection there is the visual, the audio, the video storytelling that goes through that. And that's what advertising is. And so that's the way that I'm thinking about on-chain advertising or crypto native advertising in Web3. We're all adept at storytelling. That's what NFTs are. And so that's the first thing I would say. The second thing of, okay, what does it actually look like? So right now we have on-chain ads in front of us every single day. Open editions are a great example. Anytime that you're prompted to mint an open edition, and actually you can see behind me this Colors print.
Yeah.
This is an open edition from Colors, and it was a collab with a Thai artist. It was free, and now I have this beautiful piece of art framed on my wall. It says Colors, and I have, more connection to that community as a result. So they've given me value, and now they're getting value back. And I think the Sora mint is another great example. Zorbs are a great example of what I see as crypto native advertising. And in terms of, okay, but actually, where is the ad inventory? Right now, it's sitting here in our social networks and it's free. So if you go to Farcaster and anytime that you see an embedded mint module, that's effectively an ad slot, right? And I know that there are some people who are going to be really angry at me for saying that, but this is what's exciting, is that we can redefine what that means now, and we can redefine what happens next. And that's exactly what we're doing at Vessel, is we're redefining what happens next. We're all tired of having us be the product without consent, these apps and these closed gardens and these monoliths extract and retain all the value from the things that we're actually doing, from the value that we're providing. So now we get to turn all of that on its head, and we get to take the value back, and we get to retain that value. And then we also get to distribute it in a bidirectional way. So yeah, the Farcaster example, or any embedded Mint module, they have them on Mirror. That's just one example of, and the primitive for what is crypto native on-chain advertising.
I love that reframing, because you're right. Like, when we hear ads, I think there's typically a negative connotation, but really, I think we actually appreciate advertising to a certain extent, because if you think about all of the products you use on a regular basis that you love, where did you find all of these products if not from ads? Like, all the people you told about Glossier products, I'm sure they're happy that you were effectively advertising to them about the Glossier products that they now use and love. And so, yeah, you're right. I think we need to reframe the way we think about advertising and this negative response that we have to the word advertising, because it doesn't have to be like that. And there are better ways to do it that actually cater to our interests as a consumer, and also that require our consent as well. I think that's where digital ads have gone wrong in the last decade or two, and where we have the most opportunity to fix that.
100%. The consent component feels like such an important thing to point out. The act of minting, that's a consent layer right there. And I think there are some people who look at something like this, using the word advertising, or even if we think about influencer marketing, and what they see is shilling, right? And part of me is like, okay, well, what else do you do with your friends other than talk about the things that you love, right? Or the things that you hate? That's how you sense make through the world. And this is speaking to my brand building and marketing background. I get very excited by compelling stories that speak to who I want to be. Like this Rode lip gloss is another really great example. When I was at ETH Denver at the Boyd Club party, I was like putting it on a bunch of people at the party, because I was like, this is literally the best lip gloss ever. And I was having dinner with Dina and Natasha at Permissionless a couple weeks ago. Dina pulls out her Rode lip gloss and puts it on, and like, that's right. It's so good, right? And just like what level of delight you can get in like having that level of connection and excitement with your friends over something that you both collectively love. That's the beauty of on-chain media. And now we can collect it, and now we can have it digitally in our wallets and have perpetual value associated with it.
How Glossier has not reached out to you and offered you some sort of influencer deal is beyond me. But I think this was a question somebody asked on Twitter that it just reminded me of. I think it was Rob. Yeah, he said, how do you see the relationship between DTC, direct-to-consumer goods, and content creators changing with Web3? And I was just thinking, as you were saying all of this, about, your journey with Glossier, and then this new lip gloss that you found that now Dina and Natasha are using, that is actually a really good way for brands to find their quote-unquote brand ambassadors or influencers or whatever that may be, because right now, they'll go to Instagram, they'll see whoever has the most number of followers and offer them brand deals and sponsorships, but those might not be actually the best people to rep their brands. They may be like, wow, this is a big brand, they're offering me a lot of money, like, how can I say no? But they might not actually really care. But somebody like, you are the biggest Glossier brand ambassador I've ever met, and like, to me, it's like, it doesn't even matter how many Instagram followers you have at this point. You're going to tell everyone you know about Glossier and the products you like, and you're going to get them to buy it. You're going to do bulk orders around your computer at work. And that is way more valuable than, an influencer with 100,000 followers on Instagram who may not be the target audience, and then they don't convert as many sales as you do with much fewer followers. Right. So
Yeah.
I guess going back to Rob's question, I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think what you're pointing to is in one way an answer to Rob's question. Like, I have less than 1,600 followers on Instagram. I have just over 4,500 or 4,600 followers on Twitter. And yeah, the amount of conversions that you can point to me is probably pretty high. And that's just because I'm obsessed, And I think that when we think about marketing or brand strategies, what I hear you pointing to is like, oh, that's a top of funnel strategy. those top of funnel strategies are going to continue to be relevant. I imagine that we will always need trad Web 2 distribution. We're always going to be putting stuff on Instagram and Twitter, but they have basically moved further up the funnel. Earlier in the days, your email marketing, your Instagram, and your Twitter strategy were actually a bit lower in the funnel. But now that we just have this infinite content creation, we just have so many people are online, these networks are utterly oversaturated, that those distribution channels have moved way further up the funnel. And so now on-chain media is taking its place. So now on-chain media is what's going to be lower down the funnel. And I 100% think that in the way that Instagram and email marketing and all these social media platforms effectively made direct-to-consumer possible, right? Because now you no longer had to go through intermediary, either retail or marketing agencies or publishers in order to reach your end customer. You could do it directly through email marketing and Instagram. On-chain media, same thing. We're going to emerge the next layer of direct-to-consumer. Maybe it's something else entirely. Some people are saying direct-to-community and whatnot. I think those are interesting, but I'm actually really interested in the thing that we are not even anticipating to emerge, but is going to be the next compounding, highly valuable sort of commerce interaction that'll come from on-chain media taking the place of social media and social networks in that crucial part of the funnel.
So paint the picture for us in the future. What is media going to look like? You mentioned some parts of trad media we're not going to get rid of. We can't get rid of, and that's okay. So which parts of trad media are we keeping? What are the new things we're integrating? Like, let's say in the future when maybe we're not even calling it on-chain media anymore because that's media. It's like how we called it digital advertising or like digital marketing. That's just marketing now. What does a future like that look like? And then also with what you said about, like we really rely on Web 2 for distribution, and that is something that might not change in at least the short term. That also reminds me of a question that Simon from Myosin asked on Twitter. He said, how do we get on-chain media to go viral on Web 2 social platforms? How do we get more on-chain media in general? And that's a big question that at least I've been asking myself for a long time. And I think a lot of people who have their toes in the on-chain media space are asking themselves is, in theory, Lens is great, Farcaster is great. Like what these platforms are trying to accomplish in theory is great, but there's still no distribution at the scale of an Instagram or a Twitter or something like that. And so we're still not moving off of those trad platforms because we need it. If you're a creator, a content creator, if you're a business, you need it. There's no way to get around that. So sorry, I just asked you like 5 questions in one.
Yeah, I think we can like navigate it and answer them as we go here. But I'm in the middle of our fundraise right now, and I've said this, it's critical to our pitch. It's like, we're not trying to compete with Threads. We're not going to onboard 10 million users in one day. And I don't think that that's the goal. Part of the problem with Twitter and Instagram and all of these open platforms, one, they're pay to play. So that weeds out any of the like maybe super valuable and potentially culturally enduring institutions that can't afford to pay to play. And there's also no brand safety on any of these platforms because they are open and the moderation is questionable. I remember when I was taking my journalism classes at NYU back in whenever that was, 2007, 2008, 2009, the New York Times wasn't paywalled yet. And they were still trying to figure out what is the business model for all of these newspapers needing to go online. And look at where we are now, right? Now it's not only paywall, but there's banner ads everywhere. And not to say that that is, media is still struggling 100%. And it's, almost impossible to tell what's real, what's not, and how that changes our relationship to media. But what I'm specifically talking about here is media at the intersection of commerce and brands and how we build identity. And in fact, I think I've talked about this before, but like the New York Times, it's a media company. I know that when I'm going there, I'm going to get a story that's going to speak to a certain part of my identity. And I feel very clear and okay with that. And I know that going into it. And so that's what I feel excited about with something like on-chain media is that, now that consent layer is even more explicit because I'm minting. And I know that when I'm minting a Zorb, I'm doing it because I want to showcase my love of Zora and what they're doing for creators and what that says about me as a person. And when you look in my wallet, you see that I have a decent amount of Zorbs. So that's what I'm thinking about the future of media in general. And then when it comes to these decentralized social networks, is that the goal? Is it the goal to get 1 billion people on these networks? I think the thing you're already seeing with Farcaster, which I think has been great, is their implementation of, I think it's called communities, where you can actually go into these almost subreddits, effectively, these group chats. There's one there that's called Farcast Herds for women farcasters. And so we continue to see the niching down of these cultures of these platforms. And that's about curation. That's about seeing yourself reflected in the people around you. It's about identity. And so what is the future of media? Again, there are many more smart people thinking about this, but the thing that's never going to change is that people are going to seek connection through digital goods, through physical goods, through some sort of commerce. And they're going to want to do that in smaller and curated places. And on-chain media is a really great way to facilitate that. So the behavior that predates the internet, this is just sort of the next iteration of it.
Before starting Rehash, I was a solo creator for many years, and I often felt disconnected and lonely despite doing something I loved. With Rehash, I was seeking more connection and set out to create a community-generated podcast. Since then, I've made genuine connections with community members and fans by co-creating the show. That's why I'm so excited about Lore's launch on Base. Lore is an all-in-one platform for communities to bring their members and their funds on-chain. From there, communities hang out in a forum, crowdsource decisions, and make transactions together. Now, it's easier than ever to fund and co-create media initiatives like Rehash. Go to lore.xyz to kickstart your community initiative today. What do you think has to happen between now and then for us to get to that optimal state? And what do you think would be the biggest barriers? Like, what do you think would have to happen for us to never be able to achieve that?
Yeah, I've been getting this question a lot too. And maybe this is a cop-out answer, but I just point to the history of social media. We love putting ourselves online. We are very highly online people. We love making content, whether that's just posting a picture of you on the slope. Like, that is content that you're making, and you're bringing value to Instagram as a result. And so how are we going to onboard the next wave of users? Think about how easy it is for you to go and upload that content. What are you actually doing? There's a huge tech stack behind you, right? There's an editor that you open up. There's a CMS system somewhere in the cloud that's holding that all together. And right now, we're in the part of the cycle where we are piecing it together with CSV docs. And in order to mint something, you have to click through all of these pop-ups, and they're asking you to approve and sign things. Anytime that you send a message over Instagram DM, there's a protocol that's powering all of that. You can't see any of it. And I know that that's a controversial take. I know there's a lot of people in the space who are like, obscuring the crypto is not the way, and it's not a UX problem, it's not a UI problem. I think it's a lot of things, but ultimately we have to make it really simple and delightful for people to participate in this, because it's something that we all already do, and the value proposition is even greater. So again, maybe that's a cop-out answer, but it's something we're really focused on with Vessel. And just to point out our first mint experience, our on-chain media enthusiast mint, there was a lot of thought that went into that one product. We had multiple iterations on the actual UX flow. We wanted to reduce the number of times people had to click in order to actually mint the thing. We very purposefully built on Descent the box to facilitate really easy bridging. I hate bridging. It freaks me out, but I still do it anyway. But I'm an edge case user in terms of what we're up against in the broader retail consumer landscape. And so, yeah, I think it's like 3 or 4 clicks is our total mint experience. It's seamless. And so it's those little things that actually do matter. We have to both create media that is delightful and that people actually want to collect, that speaks to people's identity. And then we also have to really think about the UX, the UI, and that actual mint experience.
Yeah, I was going to say that was one of the things I noticed about your mint experience is that you could choose any chain, right, that you wanted to mint it on. Yeah, I was almost taken aback by that because I don't think I've had that experience before. But I was like, wait, am I on the right chain? And then it was like, oh, you can like select your chain. And I was like, what? I've never been given this choice before. I mean, at this point, I have like a little bit of ETH everywhere that I can mint stuff. But I was like, wait, I get to choose and I don't have to worry about which chain do I actually have gas money in to mint stuff or where do I not? So I'm totally with you. Like, I think we need to abstract away as much of that as possible. Like people as in the mainstream don't want to think about all of that, you know? And yeah, you guys did a fantastic, I love that mint experience, I have to say.
Thank you. I mean, huge shout out to the team, Kevin Neaton, Kevin Davis, and Nish Chaudhary for making Demo Day as excellent as it was. Yeah. And look, we're always going to have really hardcore crypto native people who are going to disagree with obscuring the crypto, who are going to disagree with frictionless onboarding. 100%. High security, account abstraction, all these things are really critical. We can have both. Not everyone is going to want to have 1,000 wallets with, to your point, less than $10 of ETH that I have on all of these L2 wallets. And it drives me crazy. And it stops me from minting some things. If I'm like, damn it, I have to bridge this over to here before I can even mint. And then, oh, but great, I don't have enough ETH to even do the gas. It's like, it's wild. And when we're talking about collecting on-chain media, when we're talking about basically the simple act of liking something on an app, that's what we do every day when we're in our social apps. Those experiences should be way more seamless and way more delightful for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to make sure we have time to get into Vessel because that's what people are wanting to hear about the most. So tell us, what is Vessel? And I know up to this point, I think the most you probably talked about it was at Seed Club Demo Day. So it's still like, I feel like everyone's heard of Vessel. No one knows exactly what Vessel is about. So tell us as much as you can what Vessel is.
Totally. So I love this. I love the lore. So Vessel, we're an integrated product suite to launch, manage, and optimize on-chain media. I'm going to start with the problem space that we see and where Vessel fits in. And then to your point, what can you actually do on Vessel? So, we've spent this whole episode talking about the upside of on-chain media and why we think on-chain media is the future of branding, marketing, and digital media in general. But we're still missing the tools and applications to get from the opportunity with on-chain media to that highly valuable future state. And that's exactly where Vessel sits. We are going to go to market with two products, our builder and our dashboard. Our builder, you can think of it as like a site builder or mint experience builder. So I think about onchainsummer.xyz. It was a super validating primitive for how we've been thinking about on-chain media at Vessel, in that what was onchainsummer.xyz? It was a fully branded web destination that held all of the mints in one place. So the discovery was native. Base and Jesse and that team were still relying on traditional social networks like Twitter for their distribution, but the discovery was native. It was within their ecosystem. You could click around to any of the mints. It was multifaceted. It was multimedia. There was low cost or free open editions that were paired with an editorial on the brand that also were paired with on-chain video, like live streaming stories with the brand's like founders or creators. So it was super engaging, had many touch points. But the critical thing was that it was fully branded. So Base owned the whole interface of the Mint experience. They even connected it to mint.fun. I could see all of the community or the ecosystem mints that were being put on Base, and I could collect them right there. And so we need more of that. Right now, discovery of a brand's on-chain media or their NFTs in general. When I say brands, I mean creators. I mean everyone who's here in the space that's putting media on chain. You have to either go to the native protocols, so that's like an OpenSea or a Zora, to find those things, or you just happen to run into them on Twitter. I think things like interface app and titles are really great sort of intermediaries there where you can kind of keep an eye on where people are minting things, and that sort of helps the distribution and discovery. But we lack native discovery in the space, and we lack narrative cohesion for on-chain media in general, for brands on-chain media. So that's what our site builder does, is we allow people to own the mint experience. It's a digital asset storefront in many ways. And so that's one piece. It'll be connected to a brand or an owned TLD. So you can imagine like media.rehash.com or whatever your URL is, and it would surface the Vessel-powered interface that you've done and you've built yourself. The other thing that it allows us to do is integrate page analytics. So we're able to pull off-chain analytics to allow people to really optimize their campaigns. Like, okay, did that copy work? Did that button color, was it the right color? Where did you lose people in the mint cycle? Was it app bridging? Did you even get people past Wallet Connect? Are you just pulling on a really Web 2 crowd and don't even realize it? So that's a critical integration. We'll also be able to integrate other protocols into the native mint flow. So things like XMTP, Co-Create, or Disco, or any other emerging integration will be able to integrate into the native mint flow. That's the third value proposition of owning the front end. And then we have our dashboard. So our dashboard is our analytics, our campaign and collector intelligence interface. And so brands or creators or any user of Vessel will be able to see all of their on-chain media campaigns in one place. And we say campaigns instead of contracts, basically. So think of a campaign as a contract. So any individual NFT, let's call that a campaign. You can see all your campaigns in one place. You can compare your campaigns to really understand how your strategy has adjusted and responded in real time. And then that can help you plan out your next campaign, your next contract, your next drop. Then you can also see all of your collectors in one place across all of your contracts, all of your campaigns. So whether that's a POAP, whether it's an IYK chip, whether it's an open edition, whether it's a one of one, you can see them in all one place, whether it's a podcast NFT. And then you can also take actions on there. You can take bulk actions. You can message everyone who collected the season 1, your Genesis collection. You can message people who haven't really been active for the last 2 months. You can message your top holders. You can message your least active holders. So that's the core of Vessel's product suite. We're in that middle of the funnel, middle and bottom of the funnels. We want to help everybody who is putting any media on chain. We want to help them both acquire, but then critically retain those collectors over time and over future campaigns. And so that's what we're building at Vessel. I'm super excited by it. And I'm really excited to see what kind of on-chain media campaigns will come out as a result now that we have tools in place to make it that much easier. I'll say one last thing. Jesse and the team at Onchain Summer, it was an incredible campaign, right? And they patchworked it together with protocols and other applications. And so Vessel basically provides the out-of-the-box solution for any creator or any brand or any user to do that themselves.
That is so cool. I'm already thinking about all the ways that I could use it for Rehash. It sounds like a full on-chain marketing suite. Is
100%.
Essentially like what it sounds like to me. Yeah. Wow. That's super cool.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll say is that we are media type and integration agnostic, which feels really important, right? Because we can look at the past year and we can see the user behaviors, the collecting behaviors that have persisted over time, that have changed. Some have completely dropped off altogether. And we don't know what the next big emerging user behavior is going to be. But what we do know at Vessel is that we're always going to need to have mint experiences, and we're always going to need to have some way to look at insights and then take action on those insights. And so no matter what user behaviors emerge, no matter what token standards emerge, no matter what other new protocols or integrations emerge, we're agile enough at Vessel that because we're building on top of all of it, that we will grow with both our distinct user base and the ecosystem at large. And that's also what feels super exciting. It's like, yeah, what's the future? We're about to find out.
If you're looking for beta testers, people to provide feedback, hit me up. I would love to test it out, and I will give you all the feedback. I mean, you can ask like David Phelps with Joke Race. I'm like always in his DM.
It's true. You are a power user of all the founders apps. And I mean, we need more people like you, Diana.
Well, hit me up. I'm happy to beta test Vessel for you. I'm super stoked for it. Cool. So every episode this season, we're ending with one final question that was submitted by the community. And so we, of course, held a whole joke race on this. We got a lot of ideas come in and questions. And the top 3 that people wanted to hear our guests answer are these 3. The first one is, what's your favorite crypto drama? And tell us all about it, from Meg Lister. The second one is also from Meg Lister. She said, who would you invite on the podcast next season? And then the third one is, estimate your success rate and your attempts to crypto pill your off-chain friends and family members. Paint me a word picture of your average attempt, from Floppy Abe.
Oh my gosh. I'll just say, I need to answer that one really quickly. My success rate is very low. In fact, most of my non-crypto native friends just have no idea. I'm just Steph to them. Which honestly, I feel like it's needed. You go to conferences and you're on and people are coming up to you that you don't know. And it's like a weird thing to be like a super niche, like micro celebrity on the internet. And I'm like very micro and very niche. Yeah, I will say my boyfriend, who's not crypto native at all, like trad artist, he's going to laugh if he listens to this. He's like coming around. He's kind of understanding that like, oh, this is interesting. This is like the future and I can see the value proposition.
What have you been saying to him that's making it click?
My favorite thing to do is to point out something that he does and like draw parallels to what we're doing in crypto. Like, you have all these records. You're really into records. You collect records. Why do you do that? Do you think they have financial value? Oh, they don't. Okay, so what kind of value? It's like you start, it's kind of dirty. So I don't recommend it in terms of a like relationship building thing with your partner, but it does result in a lot of good laughs. But crypto drama.
Yes. I was hoping you'd pick that.
Oh my gosh, what's good crypto drama? Oh man, I wish I had a better answer actually. I mean, my favorite crypto drama is to always randomly throw back to the most traumatizing times in crypto history. I often say steady lads is like my favorite thing to say. I mean, look, crypto drama is the basis of why we're all here, right? We love a juicy story. I mean, look at the amount of dating shows that people are like, that's PMF for crypto with dating shows. Shout out like Unlovely and Gossip Protocol. Yeah.
Like, who decided that was just going to be the new thing of like Q4 2023? We're going to do crypto dating shows. That's
crypto dating shows. That's it. We're all bored and down bad in crypto right now.
I guess, yeah, it must be like deep bear market. We need something to entertain ourselves and lift the spirits a little bit. Okay, well, I know you've got to run. Before you go, just tell people where they can find you if they want to follow you personally, and then where people can go to check out Vessel. I don't know when you're planning on public launch or opening it or how it's working, but let people know how they can get involved, like myself, if we want to beta test Vessel.
Well, Dana, you can DM me.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Do that. Yeah, and maybe just to give a little more context on roadmap, we're planning our MVP launch for Q1 of next year. So right now, lining up those alpha users. Yeah, Diana, we should definitely talk. And yeah, launching next year, probably sometime around ETH Denver. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at CryptoHoney, which is crypto HUN3Y. And Vessel, you can find at onvessel_world. And we're on the web at onvessel.world. And you can also find our Genesis mint there, Onchain Media Mint. Go do it. Give me feedback on the mint experience. Would love to hear it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Steph. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Diana. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Rehash. Rehash is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Diana Chen, and sponsored by Quest and Lore. Rehash is also supported by our community of NFT holders who curate our guest lineup each season. To get involved, head over to our website at rehashweb3.xyz and collect this episode as an NFT. Anyone who collects an episode becomes part of the Rehash community and will be able to nominate guests for future seasons. To learn more about how to become a guest on the podcast, go to rehashweb3.xyz/podcast. And to learn more about sponsoring the podcast, go to rehashweb3.xyz/sponsor. Finally, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at rehashweb3 or on Lens at rehash.lens. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.